Section 24 of Lives of the Most Eminent Painters, Sculptors, and Architects, Volume 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Leni. Lives of the Most Eminent Painters, Sculptors, and Architects, Volume 1, by Gior. Translated by Gaston de Ver. Section 24. Life of Giovanni dal Ponte, painter of Florence. Although there is no truth and not much confidence to be placed in the ancient proverb that the prodigal's purse is never empty, and although, on the contrary, it is very true that he who does not live a well-ordered life in his own degree lives at the last in want and dies miserably, it is seen, nevertheless, that fortune sometimes aids rather those who squander without restraint than those who are in all things careful and self-restrained. And when the favour of fortune ceases, there often comes death to make up for her defection and for the bad management of men supervening at the very moment when such men would begin with infinite dismay to recognize how miserable a thing it is to have squandered in youth and to want in old age, living and labouring in poverty, as would have happened to Giovanni da Santo Stefano a Ponte of Florence, if, after having consumed his patrimony and much gain which had been brought to his hands rather by fortune than by his merits, with some inheritances that came to him from an unexpected source, he had not finished at one and the same time the course of his life and all his means. This man, then, who was a disciple of Buonamico Buffalmacco, and who imitated him more in attending to the pleasures of life than in seeking to become an able painter, was born in the year 1307, and, after being in early youth a disciple of Buffalmacco, he made his first works in the chapel of San Lorenzo, in the Pieve of Empoli, painting there in fresco many scenes of the life of that saint, with so great diligence that he was summoned to Arezzo in the year 1344, a better development being expected after so fine a beginning, and there he painted the Assumption of Our Lady in a chapel in San Francesco, and a little time afterwards, being in some credit in that city for lack of other painters, he painted the chapel of Santo Onofrio in the Cosimo, together with the said churches, in the making of fortifications for that city, and exactly in that place, at the foot of the abutment of an ancient bridge beside the said Santa Justina, where the stream entered the city, there were then found a head of Appius Caecus and one of his son, both in marble and very beautiful, with an ancient epitaph, likewise very beautiful, which are all now in the guardaroba of the said Lord Duke. Giovanni, having returned to Florence at the time when there was finished the closing of the middle arch of the Ponte a Santa Trinita, painted many figures, both within and without a chapel built over one pier and dedicated to Santo Michelagnolo, and in particular all the front wall, which chapel, together with the bridge, was carried away by the flood of the year 1557. It is by reason of these works that some maintain, besides what has been said about him at the beginning, that he was ever afterwards called Giovanni dal Ponte. In Pisa, also, in the year 1355, he made some scenes in fresco behind the altar of the principal chapel of San Paolo a Ripadarno, which are now all spoiled by damp and by time. Giovanni also painted the chapel of the Scali in Santa Trinita in Florence, with another that is beside it, and one of the stories of St. Paul by the side of the principal chapel, where is the tomb of Maestro Paolo, the astrologer. In Santo Stefano al Ponte Vecchio he painted a panel, with other pictures in distemper and in fresco, both within and without Florence, which brought him considerable credit. He gave contentment to his friends, but more in his pleasures than in his works, and he was the friend of men of learning, and, in particular, of all those who pursued the studies of his own profession in order to become excellent therein, and although he had not sought to have in himself that which he desired in others, yet he never ceased to encourage others to work valiantly. Finally, having lived 59 years, Giovanni was seized by pleurisy, and in a few days departed this life, wherein, had he survived a little longer, he would have suffered many discomforts, there being left in his house scarce as much as sufficed to give him decent burial in Santo Stefano al Ponte Vecchio. His works date about 1365. In our book of drawings by divers ancients and moderns, there is a drawing in water-colour by the hand of Giovanni, wherein is a St. George on horseback, who is slaying the dragon, and a skeleton, which bear witness to the method and manner that he had in drawing. End of section 24.